when I was growing up, I saw videos of Shioda Gozo Kancho. And I used to ask my uncle what Kancho Sensei was like. And the one thing my uncle said was he was really fast, really fast.
Yeah.
And first time I went to Japan in 1983, I saw Kancho Sensei. I thought, Jesus Christ, he's fast, right? And then I came back and I started doing stuff. And for me, speed was imperative. So my training and my evolution in Aikido has been with that end in mind. Master Sensei is about the core power. Me, it's about fluidity and speed. I won't trade that for anything, because you know my size. I can't take a punch.
Yeah.
If you hit me, I'd cave in, right? I can't take a punch, and I can't be stationary for long enough to take a punch, right? And the best technique in the world is no good unless you can do it fast.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's guided my Aikido. And I think as I slow down from what I've seen, hopefully, even as my speed dies down, my timing will improve.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what I saw with Gozo Shioda Sensei, Kancho. I saw that with my uncle as well. As I got older, the timing just clicked in.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. That's something that we're going to discuss a little bit as well, because I think I've heard you say before that the difference between combat sports and things like that and martial arts is that martial artists will consistently improve as they get older, whereas combat sports, they're always going to reach a peak because the body just can't take the punishment anymore. As you said, you can't keep taking the punches. When you start reaching the 40s, 50s, things like that, your body just won't take it. But now you can keep.
I don't think I said that.
Okay.
I don't think I said that.
Do you agree with it?
Yeah, I agree with it. I see with some of the very traditional martial arts, the Koryu, the senior teacher will accept the technique, especially with sword and jo and stuff like that. The uchideshi, almost like the uke, would receive the technique, and they would always be the senior, so they could feel your power. They could create the timing for you, create the opening, etc. Whereas in more modern martial arts like judo and Aikido, the senior is the one throwing.
Yeah.
Right. I'm 59, Dan. I wouldn't want a 20-year-old judoka throwing me.
Yeah.
When I was 20, cool. Now, I don't know if my body can take it.
Sure.
So I think there's times when you need to step back and say, okay, my job now is as a teacher.
Okay.
I also, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question. This is my own thing, right?
Yeah.
But I get a lot of people asking me, like, why don't you prove yourself in Aikido? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And man, I've been doing Aikido for 48 years, right? I worked in doors of clubs. I've taught for all that time. I think I proved myself enough. And I'm not a fighter in that sense of the word. But Aikido's taught me never to give up. So if you're going to take me down, you better do it. Yeah, do it the first chance you get. You want to take me down, take me down. But I've seen a lot of people who are really, really good, technically, really tough. They open a school, they open a gym, whatever. And as soon as they find difficulty with the local council, with the electricity company, their finances go down under, they give up. So where was all that fight? Because that's the fight we learn as martial artists cannot just be a physical thing. It has to go here and here. It has to be mind, body, and spirit. So, I think if you look at the best warriors of yesteryear that we remember, Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, anyone you want, they had mind, body, and spirit. It wasn't just they weren't just tough, or they weren't just clever. They were all of it. And those are the people we should aspire to be like.
Definitely. I think that's super important at the moment as well, isn't it? Especially with what's going on around the world.
Yep.
I've seen some people step up to the mark in terms of martial arts instructors, and they've gone, right, what can we do in this time? I've seen also others of you said just kind of go, right, that's it,
Yep.
we're done. How are you finding it? Obviously, it's a little bit different in terms of Australia and England, or Europe even, but I think martial arts are affected no matter where you are.
I think, you know, in Australia, we got some good backup from the government. I've heard in the UK, you put a spray that they've screwed you, being a sole trader or something. Yeah.
Yeah, people have fallen through the gaps a little bit, but
yeah. And same here. I think the banks have screwed us. The government's helped us, but the banks won't hold back on the interest. You know, this, but all that's separate.
yeah.
I think the challenge for us is two things, right? How long it's going to take to come back, and when governments let us come back. Because in my mat area, if they say it's 4 square meters per person, I can put 40 people on the mat.
Exactly.
But the fact is, we're going to be grabbing each other.
Yeah.
You know, we're arm's length away. Is that ethical? Is that correct to allow that? Legally, I probably can, but is that ethical? And also, people's perception of what's going to be safe.
Yeah, I think that'll be more the thing, when it'll be the fear.
Yeah, yep. And you know, in the 80s, when I had my first dojo, the interest rate I was paying on my mortgage was 17-18%. I kid you not. And I had 3 jobs. I used to literally run from one job to the other to help pay for the dojo.
Yeah.
And I wasn't worried. I did it.
Yeah.
Now I'm worried.
Yeah.
Now I'm worried. You know why? It's out of my hands.
Yeah.
I won't give up, but you know, I'm also not as young as I used to be. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You've been doing the Keep the Flame Alive talks then, with various Yoshinkan practitioners around the world. You know, high-end ones. How did that come about, and why?
Honestly, I don't think you can learn Aikido from, or any martial art, online. I think you need a partner in front of you. You need to feel. You need to move around. This online stuff is just for dire situations.
Yeah.
Everyone said to me, "You should do something online. You should do something online." And I said, "No, no, no." My girlfriend said so. All the instructors here said so, and I said no. Then my daughter said to me, "Dad, you should do something online." I said no, and she said, "Dad, they need to hear your voice."
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, fine. And I started doing it, and I limited myself to 2 things. One, what can you do alone, and what can you do in a very small space? So that's my criteria. And after 2 classes, I thought, Jesus, I haven't got enough material for this.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know, hey, why don't I start interviewing people? And that's how it came about.
Good, fantastic. Yeah.
Sorry?
Sorry?
Born of necessity.
Born out of necessity. Yeah, good, perfect. Yeah, good. Have you got plans to interview other martial artists as well then? How long is this going to continue on for? Indefinitely?
I don't know. We'll see. As long as I'm having fun.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It's not a money-making thing. I've interviewed so far people that I know, because I don't want to interview people. I want to have a discussion with them.
Sure.
Yeah, and my next interview is with 3 female instructors from this dojo.
Okay.
Because I think that's important.
Definitely.
Then after that, it's going to be a lot of Aikido people, because most of the listeners are Aikido people. But I want to tap into some of my Kyokushin karate friends, and then throw it out there.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But I don't want to interview people on subjects I know nothing about.
Yeah, have some knowledge.
Because
so
I want to be able to, yes, and I want to be able to pull them up on certain things. So if I don't interview someone, it's not because they're no good. It's because I don't know enough about what they're doing.
Perfect. Yeah, good. Okay. Your teaching style then, you obviously teach around the world. You're very popular teaching, both by yourself and also with Mustard Sensei, etc. how would you class your teaching style, and why do you think your teaching style is the way that it is?
I wouldn't class my teaching style. I leave that to the people who come to the seminars.
Mm-hmm.
You can classify my teaching style or ask me more questions about it. I won't classify myself. I won't put myself in a box.
Some people are quite chilled out, relaxed in seminars and things. You're quite not stern, but you're very serious. When it's on the mat, it's on the mat, and it's very, let's do this. It's very precise. It's very, you don't laugh, you don't joke about too much, which is different from when you're off the mat. Is there a reason for that? Is it just when it's on the mat, it's time to go? When it's off the mat, relax? Or
I believe what we do is a martial art.
Yeah.
And you know, I can be very serious, crack a joke, and go back to being serious.
Yeah.
And it's not just a facial seriousness; it's a mental flick of the switch. Most people cannot do that.
Yeah.
Most people, once they get into the smile, laugh routine, it's very hard to flick that switch back.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I teaching them? Just technique, or am I teaching them a way of being?
Yeah.
So we can have a joke, we can have a laugh when we have a beer, no problem.
Yeah.
Right. But on the mats, unless you can maintain your composure, you know, I cracked a joke once here in the class, in my class once, and I cracked a joke just to get people to relax and stuff like that. And
Sure.
Someone came back with a retort. Okay. And after the class, I walked off the mat and I heard one of the senior instructors call everyone together and say, when he makes a joke, it's to help you to relax. Don't mistake it for a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a purpose for everything. And, you know, my teachers have made jokes with me on the mat, but I've never answered them. Never, ever. I just like, oh, and that's it. You know, I've hardly even smiled at their jokes. Even if I thought it was funny, I wouldn't smile at it.
Yes.
But it's just me, I guess. And Mustard Sensei says because I'm a miserable bastard. He's probably right. But it's my way. I think we do a martial art. And when I was training in Japan, there wasn't much smiling, and you know, and part of it then is it's a misinterpretation of the Japanese word for to be happy or to have fun. And it's different, you know, to have fun is one thing, to be happy is another. So you should be happy when you train, and that doesn't necessarily equate fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're happy on the inside, but you don't show it here.
Mm.
You know, look, when I teach, people are like laughing and giggling. You know, next time you sit in the bloody dentist chair, right? Tell me how comfortable you're going to be with a dentist who's laughing and giggling and coming at you with a drill.
Yeah.
He's got no control.
Yeah.
Right now, if someone's laughing and giggling, I don't want to give them my arm to put 30 kilos of weight on it. They got no control.
Mm.
I'm going to give you my arm, bloody respect it, and to respect it, you need to have control. You need to show me some control.
Yeah.
And if you can't control your face, what can you control?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's my reasoning, and but mainly it's a martial art, and for me, laughing and giggling right through the class is not martial training. Of course, you have a laugh, but then switch off or switch back on and go back to training again. Get serious again.
Perfect.
The other part of the question, why I teach the way I teach.
Yeah.
I teach. You've traveled with me before in Melbourne to different places, and I teach dependent on the audience in front of me. So I'll teach kids differently, teenagers differently. At the high schools you went to, I teach adults differently. I teach black belts differently, and my seminar style is the same.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's why when I teach seminars, I often split the class. Other teachers like doing everyone the same. I like splitting the class because I like teaching to the audience.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Great. I'm going to keep coming back to the efficacy of martial arts because I think you're the best man to talk to about it, and I think that it's a question that often gets overlooked in terms of being respectful to the art, being respectful to your teacher, things like that. And I think sometimes that's a cop-out because it gets into this cultish scenario sometimes where what's being taught isn't effective in any sense of the word, but it's a respect thing where you don't disrespect the teacher, you kind of just bow down to their teachings of it needs to be done like this and that's the only way. And one type of Google into YouTube or anything like that, you're seeing these things like no touch knockouts, people staring at each other and they're falling over, and they're purporting it to be Aikido. What's your thoughts on this and why this, I don't want to say it, but why the state of Aikido is the state that it is today?
It's fucked, isn't it?
Yeah. But
yeah,
why?
Yeah.
Why has it become such a fucked up situation with it? Where it used to be a well-respected art, where people would travel from other things like judo, judoka would go to train with Ueshiba, would go to train with Kancho Sensei, and then suddenly somewhere along the line it's lost its way, I feel, because there's been no evolution.
I think there has been evolution, but probably not for the best.
Okay.
In lots of situations, right? Part of it is Japan being the way it is.
Okay.
Paul Kale has a theory, and he said that after the Second World War, Japan was in need of healing.
Yes. Yeah.
And so O-sensei, developed Aikido, changed Aikido in a way to heal people. Yeah. I mean, if people just saw the atrocities of war, are you then going to teach them how to rip eyes out and pull someone's throat out? No. You teach them how to work together, live together. Street violence is almost non-existent in Japan.
Yeah.
And so why teach people that? But that's them. Okay. For us, we're stuck in what we believe or what we see our teachers want us to do.
Yeah.
So I think that you do not speak the way you were taught to speak in school. You've developed dance talk.
Sure.
Right? So how can we as Aikidoka blame our teachers for practicing the way we do? I've been doing it 48 years, right? And I cannot blame my teachers if my Aikido is ineffective. I have no right. I've had 48 years to correct it.
But
I need to.
You follow what your teacher does. So you try to emulate that, or they wouldn't be your teacher.
No, I don't. A teacher is not a cardboard cutout for you to emulate. They're a living source of information. They're for you to learn from, not just emulate. I've never wanted to be like any of my teachers.
Okay.
Never. But I mean, happily steal whatever they have. Sure. I want to do this technique like Shioda Gozo. I want to do this technique like Thambu Sensei, this technique like Inoue Sensei, and then make it my own. I never want to be like anyone. I don't want to dress like anyone. I don't want to speak like anyone.
Sure.
But I will learn from everyone.
Okay.
And my Aikido is, I let people judge what my Aikido is, but what it is not is what someone else should think Aikido is. If that makes sense.
It's your
okay,
Aikido.
So it's my Aikido. If I see someone do no touch Aikido and it's fabulous, I'm not going to do it. It makes no sense to me. I don't want to do it. It's not. If that's the state of Aikido, then I'll give up and go fishing, man.
Yeah.
And if people want to believe that, then do so. Don't come to my dojo. When you come to my dojo, you do what I say in the class. After class, you're allowed to practice. You're allowed to do whatever you want, as long as it's safe. Many dojos don't allow that.
Yeah.
You can, before and after class, you can only do what the teacher says. After class, it's free mat time. You do what you want, as long as it's safe and you pick the right partner. I've got people here who do karate, who do BJJ, and I'll ask them to show other people certain things.
Yeah.
I got no issue with that. But when I teach, you do what I say. And having said all that, I have a responsibility to my teachers and to the art to not blindly follow what they did, but to try and follow the principles they laid down. I will use the principles of Aikido to combat any and all situations. I've heard, don't worry about what I've heard in the past, but there's a lot of people who use their teachers as a crutch, not to explore the possibilities of Aikido. Yeah. And you know, a long time ago, I spoke to Paul Kale, and someone had asked him, you know, in front of me, what was the best martial art? And essentially, he said that if you gave a sniper an Uzi, it was no good.
Yeah.
If you gave a street kid a Glock, they wouldn't know how to use it. You gave someone going door to door a sniper's rifle, no good. So you have to find the weapon that suits you, or the weapon system, Aikido, karate, whatever, right? Once you have the right weapon, you have the fortitude to use it, right? You teach a very down-to-earth, very systematic, easy to use martial art, or if you call it martial art or system, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Sure.
Now, I bet half the people who come to you wouldn't have the fortitude to use it, or the presence of mind to use it when push comes to shove.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make what you're doing bad. That doesn't make them bad either. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Aikido sucks because a lot of people cease practicing it as a martial art.
This is the issue, yeah. It becomes more of the art, less of the martial.
Yeah. Let me use two of Shioda Gozo's quotes here. Right? He said, first, if you do Aikido, remember it is first and foremost a martial art.
Yeah.
If you forget it is a martial art, you lose all essence of what it's about. You may never use it in a real altercation, but if you forget in practice that it is a martial art, you lose all essence of any and all message it had.
Yeah.
Second quote, if you do Aikido for 20 years and all you can do is defend yourself, you've wasted 20 years. So it's a balance of the two, huh?
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a balance. And it's a difficult balance to strike at the moment. And in the current climate, people want efficacy. They want something to work here and now. You've got things that are tried and tested, maybe, in terms of practicality. You've got things like BJJ, perhaps, where you drill the technique and then you roll. So like a spar. You do boxing, you do kickboxing, things like that. You spar, you test it. There's testing in Aikido, but it's not testing. Do you understand what
I understand what you mean. But
it's still compliant, I suppose, which is people's problem.
Let me come back to that point in a second, right?
Yeah.
You said what most people want is efficacy. Sorry, can you repeat that word for me?
Efficacy.
Efficacy. Okay. Yeah. I don't think so. I think a lot of people want purpose.
Purpose in terms of
purpose. You know, maybe I'm getting older, but why this interview, Dan?
Because I think that you're a leading. Well, firstly, I know you, so I can speak to you, and I know what we're talking about. Secondly, I've still got a special place in my heart for Aikido, and when it gets bashed and knocked,
why?
Because I've trained with some amazing people during my time, and I know how effective it is. And I've used it before in altercations and things like that. And sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, but I still see the efficacy of it. Okay,
now if I was one of those guys who my nose was like this and my ears were like this, and all I could say was, would you be interviewing me?
No.
So there has to be some purpose in life. There has to be some. The the people that I respect and admire are people who mind, body, and spirit have excelled past me. Not just, you know, I heard of someone, an ice guy from Iceland who just lifted 501 kilogram deadlift.
Yeah,
yeah. The mountain. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Would I want to talk to him? I have no interest in talking to him.
Sure.
You know, but I have an interest talking to some amazing Kyokushin karate people. They got knuckles like that. But when you sit down and talk to them, they're amazing people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know people who are efficient, who are great people in mind, body, and spirit. That's where I am at the moment. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I just wanted to know how to knock someone out.
Yeah, maybe that's the benefit of experience there. Maybe I'm still looking at it through the 30-year-old eyes, or nearly 30-year-old eyes, of just going, right, what's effective, what works? I'm learning a martial art, I want it to work. Done.
And so you should, you know. But I think if we look at a martial art, if we look at anything in life here, if I use the Christmas tree analogy, okay? Or no, not this Christmas tree analogy. Look at a budget, right? A household budget.
Uh-huh.
Right? You want to pay your bills for today. You want to go do grocery shopping. You want to pay your electricity bills, the water bills, everything. But you also want to save a little bit for that holiday or that extension in the house.
Yeah.
If you're just going day to day, life's dreary.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot save for that extension or that holiday unless you pay the bills today. And I think martial arts is the same. Unfortunately, with Aikido, everyone's going for the high-reaching fruit without giving people what they want here and now. Yeah. I think for again, to quote Dragon Sensei, the real test of any martial art is for as long as you stay viable to people, you will live. As long as you're offering people something. When you stop offering people something, you will die out.
Yeah.
And you know, the no-touch stuff that you alluded to, and that we both have the same opinion on that, right? Yeah. Man, if anyone can knock me out without touching me, right? I'll give him 10 grand US.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an open invite. If you can knock me out without touching me, I'll give you 10 grand US. Right?
There you go, people.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would offer you more, but I haven't got more. 10 grand US, right?
Yeah.
If you can knock me out without touching me. So, look, you and I have the same opinion. You and I want the same things, but we're at different stages in our lives.
Sure.
And we've had different experiences. Doesn't make one right or one wrong. There's mutual respect. And for me, that's what Aikido is about. That's what martial arts is about. That's what being a good human being is about.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know, fuck man, I don't want to produce fighters. I want to produce good human beings.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Where do you see the future of it then? Where do you see the future of Aikido going in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Moving past all this Corona stuff, when we're back to training it as we were, or however close we can be to as we were.
I think Aikido is an art form, and it's going to vary. It's going to be really like, there's going to be a whole spectrum of what Aikido is and should be. Maybe with the coronavirus thing, the no-touch stuffs will take off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of us who have to put hands on each other to take each other down, maybe they'll lose. But
yeah.
You know, I've thought. I think there's a world. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. But I do know that with the laws the way they are, for crowd control and for law enforcement and stuff like that, Aikido's got a place. With the right instructors, it's got a place. You know, you yourself know, if you're in a pub and someone says, "Hey, I'm not going,"
yeah,
they're not swinging a punch at you. They're just saying, "Hey, I'm not going." What are you going to do? You know, break their nose and drag them out?
Yeah.
You'd be up for charges afterwards.
Yeah.
you know. And same with law enforcement. If someone says to a copper, you know, I'm not going, a peaceful protest, I'm not going, and you smash him in the head with a truncheon and drag him off, you're up for charges. Everyone's got cameras now.
Yeah.
So there is a place for Aikido because it's effective. I've used it. I'd like to say it's worked all the time. It hasn't. There have been times when it hasn't worked. There have been times when I haven't worked.
Sure. Yeah.
But you know, I think there's a time and place for it.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you, Sensei. I think we've got
Pleasure.
Yeah, got good
Dan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Why did you stop doing Aikido?
There was a few reasons, really. I questioned the effectiveness for me of what I was being taught. If I was closer to you, I probably would have stayed. But at that time, I couldn't find someone that would progress me as far as I wanted to go. I was training in other things, and I was getting more out of that than I was at Aikido at that point. And so it wasn't really a conscious thing that I'm going to stop. It was just I started training more in something else, and this got pushed aside. But I think for me, the training became more art than it did martial, and it was more about your health and well-being and flexibility and suppleness and things like that. And I didn't want to do yoga or Tai Chi or something like that. It wasn't of interest to me. I wanted the dynamicism that you bring and the fast, hard, effective Aikido that I know is out there.
So you've moved on. You've moved on, right? And you're doing something that's very practical and something that you're obviously making a good living out of. Why still that drawback to Aikido?
Because I did it for 20 years. So it's the longest art that I've done, and it will always have, I think, a special little place in my heart, and it's something that I would like to come back to. And the longer as time goes on, the more I see myself getting back into it and speaking to people.
That sounds like a bad ex-girlfriend.
I know, right? Yeah, I just can't stop talking to her. It's bad. Yeah, I keep getting drawn back into it.
Yeah, but not always a good thing.
Not always a good thing at all. No, but equally, I know the right things to do and the wrong things to do now because I've gone off and I've done other things. So I know what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and what I want from my martial arts.
Yeah. So let's just recap a little bit. Yeah. Where does it say that Aikido has to look like this? Where does it say that to do Aikido you have to put on a white dogi? Where does it say you have to stand in kamae or you have to do basic movements?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, does it? No, it doesn't. But yet
in my syllabus now, my applied syllabus, I'm using the concepts that I've learned in Aikido about structure, form, body placement, body weight, things like that. That's transferred into it. We don't wear gis and we don't do kion and kion dosa and things like that. But for me, it's still Aiki.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's the future of Aikido. Maybe that's the future of Aikido. Maybe, dinosaurs like me need to go drop the white gi and go fishing. But the thing is that my point is, for as long as there's people like you or me around, it'll live,
Yeah.
And can I add one last thing?
Of course.
Someone interviewed Indigenous Australian painter. He's a brilliant painter, and he was quite different. Okay, he used pastel colors in his painting. It was semi-traditional, and he was questioned, and he said, and they said, how come you don't paint like the indigenous people on the West Coast or on the center or on the East Coast? Why is yours so different? He says, because I go from one master to another and pick up what they do, and I mix it and make it my own. He said, but I can only do that because those masters have still kept those traditions alive. If they didn't, then he said maybe it was my job to keep one of those traditions alive. But because there are people doing it, I can then move around. So, modern, contemporary, old school, whatever, we all have a place. And, it's people like you who I think will bring us together.
Hopefully, yeah. I'd like to. I think it's a good thing. I think people should be more open and inclusive. I think the martial arts in general are egotistical, and a lot of them are just idiots and just go, right, my style, that's it. everything else is bullshit.
Yeah.
If you're an MMA guy, you think MMA is the best. If you're a BJJ guy, you think BJJ is the best.
Yep.
If you're karate, you think karate is the only way forward. It's like, nah, take everything. Everything has its place.
I think to some extent, I mean, we don't always think the same way, right? Even the same person, I think differently. And sometimes I have to think, I have to think, and I have to believe what I do is right and the best.
Yeah.
But temper that with saying it's right and the best for me.
Yeah. And in a
Not for
certain
everyone.
circumstance, perhaps.
Yeah.
No.
And
Yeah.
I've hit people working in clubs. I've hit people. I've done stuff that I'd rather not say.
Yeah.
You just do what you need to do at that point in time.
Yeah.
But the one most important thing about martial arts is that if it's necessary to do something, it is necessary to do it. If it's unnecessary to do it, it's necessary not to do it.
Yeah.
And in it comes back to reasonable and proportionate force.
Yeah.
It's also if you've taken someone down and they're out, you don't then kick them in the head.
No.
No. Yeah. You've controlled them. That's your discipline. You stop there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what martial art you do.
Or is that something that you teach as well? Do you think that's common sense, or is that something that you teach as well? If you're, because I know you do self-defense seminars, things like that, workshops, and certain class structures on self-defense. So do you teach the legal side as well? Because I think it's an important point.
I don't teach the legal side, but I teach the moral side.
Okay. Yeah.
But then it's all well and good. I've been hit before.
Yeah.
And I've controlled someone and taken them down.
Yeah.
I've been spat in the face and I've lost it.
Yeah.
I've taken them down and I've kicked them in the head. Okay.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah.
I don't. Looking back now, I'm thinking you're an idiot. Someone hit you and you control them. Someone spat in your face and you just want to take their head off.
Yeah.
So you can teach people all you want, but that point in time when you're under pressure, how do you control it? Yeah. And that's where it comes back to the person.
Yeah.
The art's one thing, the person's another. And things like that you can't teach. It has to be learned.
Okay, perfect. Good. Is there anything else you want to say, Sensei?
No, thank you for this opportunity, and good luck when all this is over. When all this is over.
Yeah,
take care.
Hopefully it won't be too long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Sensei.
Pleasure.
Okay.